Hello everyone, and welcome to part 3 or part 8, depending on how you look at things, of the top albums of 2022. If you're checking this out in the YouTube series, this is part 3, albums 30 through 21. And of course, if you're going through the colossal and baffling ordeal that is the top 150 albums of 2022, this is part 8, 30 through 21. It's all semantics. It's the same amount for every day part of this week. It was just an additional week last week where I did 20 albums a day, but just in written form. But this week, I have it in written form and video form, and they're both different depending on your flavoring. If you like seeing me, that's why I'm doing the video. If you like my written word, that's why everything's up on thatdrummerguide.com. And of course, if you don't like either, and you just want to sample things on your own, that's why I have the Spotify playlist. But all of that said, make sure to read the rules down in the description below because I don't want to go through it every single video. It's easy enough to do in written form because I just copy and paste the rules. And that's what I'm doing here as well. But that said, on to number 30. And at number 30, it's King's X with 3 Sides of One. I've been waiting for this album since 2009. It's been a long wait. It was before I even started interviewing bands as That Drummer Guy in 2011. It's been a long time coming, and I'm so thankful this album has finally seen the light of day. Now, one thing to keep in mind here is it really does live up to the name of 3 Sides of One, because they are one entity of King's X, but it shows off the 3 different sides. There's the hard rock and heavy metal side, there's the pop rock side, and there's the melodic side. And all 3, from Doug, Ty, and Jerry, are shown off to such great display. If you like that classic pop rock sound, Jerry wrote some amazing stuff for this. If you like more of that alternative rock, pop rock, very melodic music, Ty's got you covered. And of course, for the heavy side, you have Doug. Now, with that in mind, it does feel sometimes a little uneven because of the track order and how everything is. But with that said, it's an amazing collection of songs, which is all it needed to be. It didn't need to be a fantastic album. They have enough fantastic albums. I just want to hear some great songs from King's X, and that's what this album is chock full of. Especially considering that I didn't know if these guys were ever going to be making a new studio album. I will happily take this, and I'm so much happier because this album is in my life, and I don't want to go back into a world where 3 Sides of One is not in my life. So I thank Ty, Jerry, and Doug for being able to create a fantastic album. If this is the last album, I think it's one great way to be able to end out on, but I'm always going to hope for more King's X. And number 29 is Intransient with Ghosts in the Halls. Intransient is a fantastic band that I've had my eye on for quite some time now, and it's great to see the recognition that they're slowly but surely getting. They have this great sense of being able to write hard rock, alternative rock, and progressive metal into one fine gumbo, and it tastes so good to the ears. Like, imagine a mix of Dream Theater, Porcupine Tree, and the Goo Goo Dolls, and you have Intransient. And I mean that in the best way possible because you have great pop rock moments, you have great progressive rock moments, and then there's moments where it gets nice, heavy, and proggy. And it's got all of that and more. This is another album that I don't see enough people talking about, and I hope in time that they will get that love and recognition they deserve. The little bit that I have heard from people talking about this album, I am so thankful to see that they are enjoying it as much as I am. And for the rest of you, I highly implore you to be able to check out Ghosts in the Hall by Intransient. Coming in at number 28 is Star One. Yes, Argent Anthony Lucason's Star One with Revel in Time, the 3rd album in the Star One collection. And unlike the 2 previous albums, this one takes a completely different atmosphere. Rather than just writing about space and having everything written conceptually, this is another album that is just fantastic songs. It has an overall conceptual theme of time travel in movies. So you have things like Donnie Darko. You have Groundhog's Day. Dan Swano sings about Groundhog's Day on this album. Blows my mind. You have The Terminator. And of course, the title track, Revel in Time, is a fantastic and loving tribute to Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. And definitely check out the video for Revel in Time. It is one of the funniest and most fun videos you'll see in 2022. But with this album in particular, it is probably the most fun Argent Anthony Lucassen album to date. I think it might be because it's relatable to everyone. It's not original stories. It's based off things that most of us can see. And it's got such a great star-studded cast, no pun intended. And it's a heavy Star One album. It's probably the heaviest, but it's the most fun. And especially after the previous Arion album, and what I can only imagine will happen next in the Argent catalog, I'm sure that'll be another dark album as well. It was great to take things a bit left of center and just make something that was fun and will put a smile on your face, no matter your time travel movie. And Argent, I thank you very much for making this album. It is fantastic, and I can't wait to see what you do next. At number 27, it is Bloodbath with Survival of the Sickest. And in speaking of fun albums, I mentioned it in my written review, and I'll say it here again. I even said it when I did an interview with Bloodbath. This is the most fun Bloodbath album. It's just a fun atmosphere, except for the title, well, not the title track, the final track, No God Before Me, which is just a loving tribute to funeral doom metal. But every song before that, it's fun death metal. And if you can't get that from the song Zombie Inferno, I don't know what you're missing. But I know a lot of people have stopped listening to Bloodbath because they feel like Old Nick is not a good fit for Bloodbath. I say, you got some attitude. But seriously, I feel like Nick Holmes of Paradise Lost and now of Host does a magnificent job in Bloodbath, and I love everything that he's done to this point. But I do feel Survival of the Sickest might be his best work. He feels the most comfortable with the band. You can tell that he's really getting into it. His voice does sound like someone who's old and decrepit, which works perfectly for Bloodbath, and that's the whole point of the atmosphere, and of course the name Old Nick. And of course when you get Carl Sanders of Nile, and you get Barney of Napalm Death being able to contribute to an album, how could it not be a fun album? So if you're looking for a Bloodbath album that doesn't take itself all too seriously, but it's seriously good music, don't skip out on the Nick Holmes era of Bloodbath anymore. Check out Survival of the Sickest. Number 26 is a polarizing album for people who enjoy this band from the very beginning, because this was a polar shift in the band, and I think it was the necessary choice. It is Oceans of Slumber with Starlight and Ash. Over the years, the band has gone from progressive death metal with black metal and doom metal influences to straight up progressive doom, and now they kind of have a southern twang, southern gothic feel to them now. There's some doom elements. There's even a song that has some double bass near the end of it. But this is more streamlined into that gothic southern rock feel. It feels like a Cajun album. If anything, it feels like you're in the swamps of Louisiana. And I don't think that's a bad thing whatsoever. I'm always going to say this, and I know it's not a popular opinion, especially from what I've seen from other people on YouTube who talk about albums and bands and all that stuff, where they feel like that they need to have albums written for them, or else they're going to crap all over them. For me, an artist needs to make the album they're going to make, that they want to make. And once they start doing it and pandering to the fans and writing music that they don't care about, it's going to come through in the music. They're going to get angry, the band's going to break up, or they're just going to keep curmudgeing along, making music that they don't want to make. And I don't want to support bands that are just making music to make that non-existent money in 2022. While people aren't able to make as much money as they used to in the past, especially when it comes to metal, one positive that does come from all of that is there's no pressure. Okay, there's pressure, but you are more inclined to be able to write the music that you want to write. And especially when you look at all the previous Oceans of Slumber albums, you can see this gradual increase in the style that is now on Starlight and Ash. And I feel like it was a natural progression, and I feel like it's a masterpiece of an album. And if you want something that doesn't have any screams or growls and you just want some fantastic vocals, if you want only one song that has any kind of double bass, and if you like something that has that southern gothic metal feel, definitely check out Oceans of Slumber with Starlight and Ash. At number 25 is Amorphous, with the final album in their recent trilogy, Halo. This album came out all the way back in February. I've had this album since January, and I feel like this is the best Amorphous album since Skyforger. And I mean that because Skyforger is my favorite Amorphous album, and I feel like this is the perfect album to take the silver medal. And the Silver Bride. See what I did there? But no, seriously, Amorphous wrote a fantastic album here that has some of their catchiest choruses. It's not as proggy, it's a little more streamlined, but I think that worked out for the best because it worked for their best, most memorable songs in quite some time. Every song on this album fits perfectly for what they're trying to do, and a great way to be able to close out this recent trilogy of the last couple albums. And I can only imagine that these songs sound so fantastic live. Like, I love how it sounds in recorded form, but I can imagine in that live setting it sounds even better. So my hat's off to Amorphous for showing that no matter how long you've stayed in a band, no matter how many lineup changes that could happen, no matter style changes that you make, you're always capable of writing some of your best music, whether you've been at it for 6 months or 60 years, or anywhere in between. So definitely, for a great, super melodic death metal album, and I emphasize super melodic, check out Amorphous's Halo. Number 24, I have another Swedish band coming up here with Hammerfall and Hammer of Dawn, which I feel is the most dark and evil Hammerfall album to date. Now, with Hammerfall, there's no denying they are one of the cheesiest bands out there, but I eat that cheese up on every single album. They are a power metal band that's not afraid to be able to wear what they love on their sleeves and be able to play it through. They love hammers, they love talking about gods, they love being able to talk about epic stories, and if that's cheesy, then cheese me up. And on Hammer of Dawn, it just gets a little bit darker. You can feel the tones are a little darker, the lyrics are a little darker, and of course on the song Venerate Me, while I'm not the first person to say this, I won't be the last person to say this, I feel like they should have done more with King Diamond. Having King Diamond on your album, being able to do some vocal melody for just a few bars, elevated that song. I wish there could have been more to it, but I appreciate that he's even on the album to begin with. This is one of the standout power metal albums of the year. Not my favorite power metal album, as I even have more on this particular part of the list, and there's more to come. But Hammerfall is one of my favorite power metal bands, and they released another masterpiece. Coming in at number 23 is Ether Coven, with the relationship between the hammer and the nail. Now, this album is another one where it has more atmospheric moments, it has a little bit more experimentation, some great proggy moments going on through it, but it's still that great Ether Coven sound that I fell in love with. And when you got members of Light the Torch and Integrity being able to contribute some guest vocals to it, it elevates the songs to a whole new level. It's a dark album, it's got great social commentary through so many different reasons. The songwriting is superb. The vocals just really grab you, whether you like the more heavy, aggressive vocals or you like some great, somber, clean vocals. It's all here in stride. And it is one of the great albums of that sludge, doom, post-metal sound. And it's really high up on my list because it is that good. So with Ether Coven, absolutely check this album out. The relationship between the hammer and the nail. If you're looking for something that has that great grimy, sludgy feel, some great doom moments, some great prog moments, and some great guest features, this is the album for you. At number 22 is one of the later entries onto this list, but there's a reason it's at number 22 and potentially could have been even higher had I heard the album sooner. It is from the band known as Abyssic, and their brand new album brought forth in Equinity. This brand new album from Abyssic is symphonic, doom, black and death metal. It's got all of that, featuring past and present members of the band Suspiria, which I can't believe they went from Suspiria to Abyssic. So cool. But yeah, this has great symphonic orchestration behind it. The doom elements are so perfect for this, and of course you got some black and death metal to go along with it as well. It's not a happy album. It's a very dark album. And it tackles a lot of things about the world around us and some mental health issues, which I can always appreciate. But with all that said, it is fantastic music, and it even has a great 18-minute epic that closes out the album that is well worth your time to be able to check out. So if you like that dark, slow to mid-tempo music, if you want doom metal with some orchestration, if you want some blackened death metal with some doom elements, Abyssic is a band that you need to check out. I wish I could have checked them out sooner, years ago, because this music is fantastic. But I will say, with all of that, this is their best album to date. Listen to it and find out for yourself. And finally for this list, or at least this part of the list, at number 21 is the Ferrymen, with One More River to Cross. Yes, the all-star band is back, and this is easily the best album they've ever written. It's the most catchy, it's the most melodic. It hits all the power metal moments that you need. Ronnie Romero, being a part of this band, takes an already great band and makes them one of the best in power metal. It's a very dark album. It tackles a lot of great territory conceptually and lyrically. The musicianship is absolute top-notch. Of course, you gotta thank Magnus Carlsen for his magnificent songwriting skills, and he's written so many albums this year. I don't know how he finds the time to be able to do it all, but if he's ever missed at bat, he has more hits at bat than anything else, and this is a perfect example of that. And I can't sing the praises of this album enough. Even though it's not in my top 20, it was for quite some time, and it was a really hard decision to make it number 21, because I feel like this could have been even higher. But again, I can't sing the praises of this enough. The Ferrymen, One More River to Cross. If you want some dark power metal, you can't get better than this. And that does it for part 8 or part 3, depending on how you're looking at all of this, of the top albums of 2022. I'll be back tomorrow to begin the 2 parts of the top 20 of 2022 with the albums 20 through 11. If you missed out on any parts so far, make sure to check out the YouTube series where I start from 50 and going all the way to number 1. Or if you want to check out the entire baffling ordeal that is the top 150 albums of 2022, make sure to go to thatdrummerguy.com and be able to check out everything that I have on there, and of course the Spotify list that I be able to have with all of this for your listening pleasure as well. And until tomorrow, for Heavy Debriefings, this is Josh Ronquist saying, see ya.